So, every so often, I buy a jar of peanut butter for myself to remind myself that I have no self-control when it comes to peanut butter. I've owned this for 3 days, and it is empty. God help me if somebody ever introduces me to drugs. Yeah. So, during my time in Jeju, I've been told I look like a variety of people that I don't think I look like at all. So this video is going to be my attempt to explain why I think this happens. So, over the past year, I've been told I look like David Beckham, Cristiano Ronaldo, Adam Levine of Maroon 5, a younger, more attractive brother to Gary Sinise, oddly specific, Mickey Rourke, a lawn, a chimpanzee, and Papa Smurf. The last three are a little bizarre, but some context. The lawn and the chimpanzee were referring to my head hair and my arm hair respectively, and the Papa Smurf one, I have no idea what that was about. Perhaps that person was writing some friend fiction. In addition to being told I look like people I don't look like, I've been told that I was spotted in places where I know I wasn't. Like last week, for instance, a coworker told me she saw me in a place, in a park in Jeju that I've never been to and never heard of. While it's possible that I have an evil twin, or I slip into dissociative states and sometimes go on wacky adventures that I don't remember later, I think the more likely explanation is that these people are seeing foreigners that they think look like me, but aren't me. Lastly, third piece of evidence, and this has been confirmed by other teachers that I've talked to, whenever my students see a black person in lessons or in a music video, they point and shout, "Obama, Obama," when it clearly is not Obama. So, why do I think this happens? I don't believe it's ignorance or racism. I think it's just simple psychology. So there's a part of your brain called the fusiform face area, and just like it sounds, it's responsible for recognizing faces, mostly. So when we're born, as with all parts of our brain, this area is filled with huge potential. As babies, we're easily able to tell the difference between black faces, white faces, Asian faces, lemur faces, chimpanzee faces, and swamp lizard faces. So when we're very young, we can look at a face and say, oh, that's Rebecca, that's Gertrude, and that's Julie, from the face alone. As we get older, as is always the case, we lose these very general abilities, and our brain begins to specialize in certain aspects of that ability. So as we grow, the fusiform face area becomes better at recognizing the faces it is normally exposed to. Usually, these faces tend to be the faces of our own race, so for me, I would have become really good at telling the difference between Caucasian faces, and totally forgetting faces like Gertrude's, or losing the ability to distinguish between Julie and Gertrude. And research has shown that babies around the age of 9 months show a strong preference to faces from their own race. And this is called the other race effect, where faces outside of your own race, other races, are more difficult to discern than faces from within your own race. So, we could assume that Koreans living in Korea, being that Korea is a very homogeneous country where Koreans make up 96% of the population, would be much better able to differentiate between faces of Koreans rather than the faces of foreigners. However, I do know that many Koreans are exposed to a lot of non-Korean media, such as soccer or football, depending on where in the world you are, American music videos like Maroon 5, which is incredibly popular here for some reason that I don't quite understand, and American movies. So I think that the comparison to Beckham, Ronaldo, and Levine had more to do with my hairstyle than my face, given that the easiest way to differentiate between Caucasians is our hair. And beyond that, the unflattering comparison to Mickey Rourke came at a time when I had grown a beard, which, gauging from the reaction, was a terrible, terrible mistake. I would also theorize that Koreans would likely be able to better distinguish between foreigners' faces than Canadians or Americans would be at distinguishing between foreigners' faces, given that in North America we're generally exposed to less foreign media unless we actively seek it out ourselves. I would also like to state that this foreign face confusion might be a product of living in Jeju, where the foreign community is probably a lot smaller than in larger Korean cities like Busan or Seoul. And maybe teachers in those areas are less often compared to people that they don't look like. But this is just my experience as the love child of David Beckham and Cristiano Ronaldo living in little Jeju Island. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to figure out a way to use this confusion to my advantage. Thanks for watching.